the main goals, the goals mainly of interest for the FDPG were to allow data use across location boundaries and to exchange data between healthcare and biomedical research. And for these data, for example, also people from pharmacy or like outside university can apply. And it is really the goal to make broad use of routine data. And how does it look like? The initiative has had at the very beginning only university hospitals included. Now every year new partners are added, and there are, for example, one of the newest partners is Vivantes from Berlin. So it's not University Clinica, not only University Clinica. We are very interested to add even more data holders. They are split up in 4 consortia. And in Berlin at the TMF, that's where I work, there's the coordination office of that. So now when there's, in these 4 consortia, and there's so many locations, it absolutely makes sense to have a central access point for the scientists. And that's what FDPG does. So we are a central service, and researchers can come to us, request the data, ask for counsel, and so on. And in the web page, it looks like this, forschenfürgesundheit.de. So everyone can access it. There's also an English version of the web page. And of course, a project is not only an application or an idea, but it is really a life cycle. It's a living thing. You have many steps from the beginning to the end until until everything is done. And of course, at the moment, where we have mostly practiced the beginning of this process, but of course, only when you come up to the end and you deliver data, then you will have results and you will have publications. That's of course our final goal. And at the very beginning of each project, you have an elaborate preparation step, and researchers will need a lot of advice also from the single locations of the MII. And we'll need a lot of help. That's what we are trying to deliver as well as a service, the preparation. So what will you do when you're a researcher and you are planning a project? At first you might wonder, where can I get data for my project? And you have heard from this FDPG thing. I look at it. So the first impression of our data you will find on our webpage, which is just a summary, and you see that we already can deliver 18 million patients, meaning in these 37 locations you find 18 million patients. 2 million laboratory entries, 200 million diagnoses, and so on and so on. And important in the middle, on the bottom, consents, 600,000 consenting patients, because the MII has a concept of a broad consent. And patients, they give their consent before they know which kind of project will be conducted with their data. So this is important for later steps in the process. And of course, when there's consent, it is possible to do things with the data which are not possible with data without consent. This makes a difference. I will show you later which difference it makes. And you will find on the webpage this overview of core dataset modules. This is how the databases in the MII is defined. So there are teams which define these modules, and they do it in this FHIR annotation, together with common coding and terminology. which can be, which is used, for example, SNOMED or LOINC. We try as best as we can here. And these modules, they are basic modules, the diagnosis and person and consent and so on. So the ones on the top, and extension modules. All locations will have basic modules, but extension modules will not be found in all of the locations. And it is so the databases for extension modules is growing, but it's growing slowly at the moment. New modules come up and new locations decide to make data with these modules available. So when you have an idea, okay, maybe these data are interesting for me, there's an option to register. I showed it at the very beginning in the cycle. There's after registration, the next step would be feasibility query. Afterwards, there comes the application. So I only want to explain quickly because after the presentation, I would like to show very quickly in live what's happening here. But the main message is that you can enter a feasibility query describing your cohort, so your patients which you're interested in, and you can send it live to the locations and you will get a number returned, how many patients might be available for your research question. And this second step, also very important during planning of your project, will be variable selection. So when you know which patients you can use, you also want to make use of a certain set of attributes to these patients. For example, laboratory data or something. So we need these data for the patients, and you can select all the data in this application. I also want to show this live afterwards. And afterwards, as I said, there will be the opportunity to write an application. I'm showing here only the application form. Of course, it's a long form. As you can imagine, you're requesting very valuable data, and you will be it will be demanded that you describe your project in a nice way, and it should be understood by the UACs. And you also have to supply an ethics vote for your project because it's patient data. And as well, you have to add your feasibility query and the cohort definition plus the variable selection, and all this together, so filling out the forms, ethics vote, and so on, will be forwarded to the UICs. So that's a step where we are at. And I want to emphasize that all the preliminary steps are very important because you need an application of a very good quality. Why is that? Because we are sending these applications to, here it's written 32, it's getting more locations, and there will be effort to read and understand your application in every single location, which means if we can answer questions before they arise, then we will do it as good as we can. And in the process, when it is sent out, after it has been sent out to the USCs, there will be communication. So the USCs, they can ask you questions. They will come to us. So FDPG is like a spider in the network. We get the questions, and if necessary, we forward them to the researcher, and the other way around. So if answers come back, we forward it to the USCs. On that way, we achieve that, for example, questions or answers important to all of the 32 locations will be sent to all of them at once, and not every location has to ask the same question, things like that. So we manage the communication, and it works quite well. Afterwards, a contract has to be concluded. I have to mention this because researchers, they like to forget about it. So after the USC was like, when do we get our data? Excuse me, we have to conclude a contract with like 19 locations. So it's actually a massive contract then. But the processes, they work. I mean, it takes a while, but it works, and you will get nice data afterwards. Yeah. The step after contracting is that the project will be published in the transparency portal. I can show you how this looks. It's just a register. And it is there because of the broad consent. Because when patients give their consent without knowing in advance what will be done with their data, the data protection agencies in Germany, they said, then you should show the patients what you're doing with their data. And that's what the register is there for. So it's 1 week before data use starts, patients get notified if they want to use this newsletter about what kind of projects happen. So we publish this here. Every project will have a detail page for that purpose, and we try to publish a simple project description, which can also be understood by patients. And it is not too scientific, but we also publish scientific texts from the application. And afterwards, now finally, every administrative step here is done. Data use can start. And before you hand in your proposal, you have to take a decision which kind of data use you want to use. So the first option is central analysis. There you will get pseudonymized data home, like into your office. You can download it from a central site for data management then. And this is only possible for data with patient consent. And the second option is a distributed analysis, where the script goes to the location. And so you have to develop an analysis script for your scientific question. Of course, it has to be of good quality, and you have to send it to the locations, and the locations will perform the analysis in-house, and you will get the analysis results returned. That's why I'm showing a circle here in this process, because usually it will not work when you try the first time. It will probably take 1, 2, 3 times repetition until in every location you can get the results which you really need. But here the advantage is that in many locations, not in all, but in many locations, it is possible without consenting. This means in these locations, you can ask your scientific question on the whole databases which they have, thousands and thousands of patients. Yes, and if you need any help or have any questions, you can, of course, always visit our website and request help from info@forschungfürgesundheit.de. I just want to let you know this in case you really want to contact us. But before coming to an end, I have some more things to tell you. So maybe in a short overview, what happened in the last 600 days of the FDPG. So we got 68 data use requests and forwarded 23 of them to the UICs. And with these projects, we had a little bit more than 5 deliveries of data and results already. But I have to say that from these 23 forwarded projects forwarded to the UIC, almost every project found data holders who want to engage in the project. So if you have a good application and a good project, you will find often many locations in the university hospitals, many locations who are really interested in your question, and they will try to help you with that. So that is very good news for the researchers. We have a little bit more than 650 registered users, and during the last year, we realized it's getting really more and more with consolidation. Roughly, I don't know, 100 hours. We cannot say, but it's a lot. It's getting more and more. And in addition, we were wondering if the principles which we use for MII data can also be used for other data holders, because in our opinion, it's always the same process. You will always have feasibility questions. So is the things I'm planning possible with the data you have? You will always have some kind of cohort definition and variable selection. You will always have to write a proposal, and you will always need advice for your planning. And there will always be a data holder having some kind of UAC there. So user access committee taking the decision if the data holder participates in your project. So we will always have this, and in most of the cases, or many of the cases, you will also have contracts. So we wondered, can we do what we are doing also with other data holders than university hospitals? And we did this together with NFDI4Health and are still working on that. And we found, yes, when we just pick some data holder, we find, okay, yeah, actually that's possible. You will have, of course, sometimes only free text for certain things. Yeah, sometimes it's enough for a data holder to get your request in free text. But sometimes the data holder will also have a very advanced system to assess the variable selection and to offer to you to do this selection. For example, every data holder will have forms, and if we create some kind of modular form in the FDPG, we can probably address most of the data holders' needs here. Plus, of course, for each data source, you can use an own contract and things like this. So we are very positive here, and we are trying to, we are trying this actually together with DIFE for the first time in the current funding period of NFDI4Health. We're trying to centralize the application and project administration process here, and applied for funding to do this with even more data holders of NFDI, which NFDI4Health, which would be very nice, because then researchers can find all, they can find all these data and can apply for all these data within the portal of the FDPG. Yes, and we are even, we also want to try this with the NUM infrastructure. Here we also applied for funding. The project is called NUM Enrich, and we are trying to link to Actin, Naton, GeneServe, and so on. So whatever is possible here, you want to try it, and this means that the German Portal for Medical Research Data would grow here into the direction of more data holders and more diversity, and would, in my opinion, be a very nice resource for researchers to go to. You will always find the same processes when applying, and I think that makes most of the data which we can show here, more fairly available, according to the FAIR principles. So that's a nice plan. We also have an idea how this will look like in the portal. It will be the first step of when you fill the application form. The first step will always be to select a data source, and the data sources will come from a metadata catalog. And for NFDI4Health, we want to link to the Health Study Hub here to have all data sources of the Study Hub also in the FDPG portal. Yes, and of course we will make the, look we will look what the data holders will need to present their variables, for example, to describe the persons for the project details, and so on, in this already mentioned modular form. Yes, and that's already it. I want to say many thanks to many people working on FDPG and FDPG functions. They are all here. I cannot mention them, and it will not be enough because when one thinks about it, FDPG can only present data which are presented by the data holders. So we are so much dependent on the university hospitals and on all the data holders who say, yeah, we want to share our data. And our idea will only work if we have this cooperation here, and FDPG will never exist without data holders. So that's what I wanted to show in my presentation. And now I would like to, as I said, go into a quick into a live presentation here. So I hope that you all can see the feasibility portal now. I always enter the same search. Excuse me, because I'm not a scientist, not really. But what I want to demonstrate is that you can enter your, like, for example, your disease of interest, and of course you can also say, oh, my person has to have a certain age or a certain gender or something like this. And here I go with E10 to E14, diabetes mellitus. And what you do is that you can select your criterion, add it to your search, and then you can put it into inclusion or exclusion criteria. You can add more of these criteria here, of course, and design your personal search of interest. And what you can do then is you click on that's the German version. Let's go to the English version. You can go to feasibility query, and it's what's happening now is what I said. The query is sent live to the locations, and they reply within like above 1 minute. And then the number of the patient, of course, counts up. That's what I wanted to show you here. Since you already see the number here, maybe let's wait the 20 seconds, because then I can show you another thing. Yeah, as you can see, the number is still getting higher. And of course, if it's a very general search, you already get very impressive patient numbers. So, and now you can click on the details button. 10 times a day you can do that. And then you see the distribution of the replies, of the locations. And now you will find, okay, is this like one location giving me this answer, or is it like evenly distributed? Of course, it depends on your scientific question here. So that's one thing. And the other thing is the data selection, which, as I said, you always need for your application. And here, same thing. If you need in your analysis, for example, diagnosis, then you will select it here. And you can say, I need only a specific type of diagnosis. For example, a certain, I don't know, same thing. For example, some diabetes diagnosis, or you choose like a whole collection here. You can edit And then you will have like a selection. No, you will not get all diagnoses when you apply for the data, but you will get only the diagnosis which will have to do with diabetes in this case. So this is how the selection works. And of course, I can give you a very short impression of the application. As you see, it's long and you have to fill it very thoughtfully, but you do this in communication with us, so it will work out at the end. Yes, and that's everything from my side, actually, and I'm happy to take questions.